Hello, I'm Terrydavidmulligan. Welcome to the Mulligan Stew podcast and the YouTube version of this interview we're about to show you on the Terry David Mulligan YouTube channel. Unfortunately, I have to say my name every time because that's what they called it. Now, this is a documentary. I'm part of the Film Critics Association in the United States, based in LA. Happily been there for years and years and years. And for the last number of years, I've been on the documentary committee. I'm far more interested in documentaries than feature films right now, because I'm finding I'm reinventing what I want to know in my head about the world around me. Documentaries do that. I go through a lot of them. This is one. It's called Count Me In, and it's all about drumming. Well, specifically rock and roll drumming, and the characters therein. But also, it all goes all the way back to Elvin Jones, Buddy Rich, those guys, all the greats, Art Blakey. The influences, each generation influences the next. And so the lineup of people, the drummers in this film is unbelievable. As I said, Elvin Jones, Jim Keltner, John Bonham, Nico McBrain, Keith Moon we'll talk about. Bonham, Roger Taylor, Al Jackson from Stax Volt, Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers, Topping Head from The Clash, and many, many, many more. It goes on quite a long time. It's a long credit list. But the guy we're going to talk to is Mark Lowe, who is the writer, the producer, and the director of this documentary. Because, as he says, he would love to be a drummer. He doesn't have the skills, but he loves drummers. So he wanted to do this, and he got it right. Although Neil Peart will talk about that because there's not much of Neil in there, and he explains why. There's also 3 female drummers are featured, and Cindy Santana is in there. And so they had to be there because they are part of this package. And so you can see it, by the way, on Apple and Fandango in the US and Canada. It is a documentary that will, and turn it up or wear your headphones. It's called Count Me In. Mark Lowe is the director. We're going to talk to him right now. Enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I love drumming.
When you're young and impressionable, everything about it was mysterious and magical and dangerous.
I went out in the kitchen and I picked up a pair of knives and I beat the living daylights out of my mum's cooker.
I played on pans.
When my first toy drum kit arrived, I had to be the happiest kid in the universe.
If the guitar plug goes out during a raid show, it'll be a bummer, but if the kick drum pedal breaks, that's a problem. You got 100,000 people like, oh, but now what, you know? What is that?
Music doesn't have to be that serious. Let's just go and have fun.
It's just like sprinting. You just sprint and you give it everything you can.
Guys pick up a guitar to get laid. You don't pick up the drums because you think you're going to be a star. You pick it up because people love it.
I hope that that's how I go out, man. Just,
Mark Lowe is my guest. This is Mulligan Stew, CKUA Radio, and the Mulligan Stew podcast and the YouTube channel. And Mark, I found, let me see, for me, it's 11 a.m. on a Monday morning. For you?
And for me, it's 7 o'clock in the evening.
What part of the British Isles are you in?
I'm in London.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And how long have you drummed?
I didn't drum. I'm a closet drummer. So I drummed, but never allowed a kit in the house. So that was never, ever happening. But we had keyboards, guitars, and but drums, no. But when I went to college, I dated this girl who was a drummer. So I got to drum. I knew all the theory, the technicals. I would sit with headphones on and listen to my favorite bands and work out how it worked. So I was a closet drummer that never drummed. And so I was always jealous of drummers. So that's so it basically making this film, which is what we're talking about, Count Me In, was my chance to kind of
We're going to have fun with this. I promise you. Why now and why drumming? Or maybe why drumming and why now?
well, drumming always, because I always think the drummer is the heart of every band, and that without
And by the way, so do the drummers.
yes. Well, yeah. So drummers are by essence very hard. I think it's Joe Strummer said, if your drummer's for nothing, your band's for nothing. So yeah, that's everything that you need to know there. And so, I mean, it came about because I'd done a project for this company called Spitfire Audio. They make sample libraries, so they will record multiple takes of instruments and you can play them back. And I'd been out with a friend, and he said, "Oh, someone wants to come down and hit a drum in my father-in-law's hallway." And I said, "Why would they want to do that?" He said, "Well, it's a place called Headley Grange, which is where Zeppelin recorded, so much material there." And so I said, "Well, surely what you'd want to do is not sample just some guy hitting some drum. You'd want to sample a great rock player playing in that space where Bonham played." And so I knew Spitfire Audio guys. So I turned around and I said, "If I could get us in there and I could get three great drummers and we recorded it to tape the way they used to do it, and we did a sample library like that, what do you think?" And they went, and so I got all fired up about it. 9 months later, I'm there with Chad Smith and the Chili Peppers. He jumped at the chance to come to Headley Grange. He said, "Just let me be the first." So yeah, absolutely. First guy through the door since Bonham on a kit. And that was on a Saturday. And on the Sunday, we had Roger Taylor from Queen. And then after that, the following week, we had Andy Gangadine, who plays for Chase and Status and Massive Attack. He's, a really contemporary drummer. And we did that. And so from doing that and talking to them and then coming over and doing a similar thing in the States, it was in my blood. I thought, I want to make something about these people because they are extraordinary. Watching Roger Taylor, who when I was growing up, Queen were my band, and watching Roger Taylor play all day for us in that hall was really something.
Did you have a chance to look at the documentary Becoming Led Zeppelin?
I only watched it a couple of nights ago, yeah.
And I love the fact that it was just about from nothing to everything. It was from couldn't get arrested to how are you going to handle this fame?
Yes.
Because that period for me was everything. And Bonham, we know, of course, it was the guy. But John is actually quoted as saying it was the room that was the star. It was the sound of the room.
Yeah.
God, he said that room was playing. I was just part of it.
Well, apparently Jimmy, literally, he was started playing, and Jimmy rushed in and said, "You have to come and hear this." And we got in the mobile because they were using the Rolling Stone mobile, and he was going, "My God, that's the drum sound." So of course, the first thing that Chad did when he got in there was play "When the Levee Breaks," because you've got to do that.
By the way, you remind me, do you know actually where the Rolling Stone mobile sits now?
No. Where?
Calgary.
In the
National Music Center, which is our sort of Rock Hall of Fame building. And our Calgary studio that I'll be in a couple of weeks is back with the I can see the end of the Rolling Stone mobile. It's there, and some people use it from time to time.
Really? Oh, good. It's still going.
Still going. All right. So the film, by the way, friends, is Count Me In, which is what people to drummers to get things going. They wouldn't normally have to say it. They just say it because it's part of the language.
Yeah.
So let's for a second just talk about drum, because I've known two drummers in my life. I've become friends with Keith Moon. And well, I'll save the other one. I'll tell you my two Keith Moon stories. Because I remember I had it was the day that they released Happy Jack, I think it was. And we were at that Bag of Nails or one of the clubs. I was with the Guess Who because they were there to tour, and the Who invited us to come in and join them. And everything, by the time it was done, uh, the guitars were stuck into the ceiling, the acoustic ceiling, and Keith had trashed everything, of course.
Yeah.
And I saw them again in Vancouver, and everybody was napping except for Keith. And he said, "Come on, I want to show you something." And he had bought a bucket full of piranha, and he had them in his bathtub. And he was trying to figure out what to feed them.
Yeah.
And it was like he was ordering room service. Oh, it was stupid. It was stupid. And I don't know who said it in the film, but saying, it was Ian Pace who said, if you look in the man's eyes, you know he's not going to get past 40 because he just lived. He was on the edge, and it was the balance of the edge. And I asked Pete Townsend, how do you, because he's not a normal drummer. He said, no. So how do you know when to come back in, when to do? And he said, we make a deal with him. We'll meet him at the corner. They'll go their separate ways, and they'll come back on the corner and they won't count him in. He'll count them in.
Oh yeah.
Astonishing drummer.
I mean, we have a section for him in the film because I just love him. I love the intricacy and the unpredictability. And some people, I think we say in the film, some people think it's a mess. I think Stephen Perkins does drums to Who Are You and breaks it down for us at the same time as we're moving between the Who and him, and various bits of lovely archive of Keith. And it's not all chaos at all. You know, it's like a human orchestra just with drums. And
you keep thinking he's going to crash and burn because he's nowhere near the beat. No, usually in front of it or delayed.
Well, I think with the Who, if you isolate Entwistle and Moon, you're amazed that anything gets done, and you realise that the only thing that's then on top of that is the guitar, and the guitar is actually, Pete's doing a lot of work, and I love that. But I've listened to just their rhythm tracks before, and I'm just dumbfounded by them. They are incredible.
My second Keith Moon story is I was invited to join them at the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam for, I think it was Tommy. I think they were doing the second playing of Tommy at the Concertgebouw. Like a gorgeous room, of course, egg-shaped, with the audience in behind and the stage about a third of the way down, so that they came down the stairs, down the aisle, through the audience and onto the stage. The problem was that Keith, who was wearing long johns, red long johns,
of course,
kept going and took the monitor system with him into the orchestra pit. And you can hear everybody go, oh. And we're all waiting. And so they got him up, they got him on his chair, but a roadie for every other song, an arm would come up underneath his arm, wipe the blood off his forehead and his eyes, and go away again. And they did the show, of course, they did the show. So I've told this story time and time again, and I know half the people didn't believe it, except the album came out last year, The Who at Concertgebouw in Amsterdam, and you can hear the audience go, as he falls into the pit.
Yeah.
That's why I say I'm astonished that he lived as long as he did.
Yeah, I mean, Alice Cooper was very good friends with him and has a whole raft of stories, some involving a French maid's outfit, which when he stayed at the house. Yeah,
I mean, Mark, you don't want to get hung up on one drummer and one character, but it seems to me that Keith said, I don't know, because drummers are the brunt of some of the best jokes. In the parodies, the drummer implodes or whatever. We don't know. We don't know what happens. Animal from Muppets is fashioned after Keith Moon.
Yep.
And a bit of Keith Richards, of course. And Animal, when they made Animal as a Muppet and they created him, they create character dialogue behind it. He is a combination of sex, sleep, food, drums, and pain. So here you are, you're doing a documentary on drummers. You won't find that everywhere, or rarely. So what did you find about the common through line with drummers, do you think?
I mean, the point of the film was to just capture their passion and that journey they make from being, because you sat with drummers, they can't sit still. They don't know, they're tapping on everything. And turning that kinetic energy into something that they can make a living at, that they can actually go out into the world and spend their entire lives drumming. It was literally to share their joy with that journey. And they're all, by the way, everyone, to a man and woman that was in the film, are all going, I don't know how I've managed to keep going, but I keep going. And for me, that was it. It was about, but it's also that thing about they know that they want to drive that band. They love it so much. So we were very, very lucky in getting who we got, because we got some amazing players. I mean, Stuart Copeland, for instance, from the Police, who I can't fathom when the Police came out. You know, we were all scratching our heads. You know, bless him. Taylor Hawkins talks about him, loved him, and just said, you know, when I heard Roxanne, yes, I just blew his mind.
When did you do the Taylor interview?
We did two. We did one in London, and then we caught up with him at home in LA as well. And he was beautiful and very lovely. And he's a massive Queen fan, as I was growing up. So, of course, we debated endlessly about Queen.
When you approached Taylor, you didn't think, how long is this man going to live? You thought he was going to be in for the ride.
Oh, no. I mean, it was a great deal of shock to everyone. I mean, you know, no one could have seen it coming. And a couple of my people who worked on the film were very close with him. So it was a great shock. And a great loss. I mean, you know, we talk about Keith. It's amazing how he lived so long, but no one saw. No, it's a great shock. It's really horrible. And of course, we got another loss today. We lost Clem Burke today, which is one of my favorite. Yeah, 70 years old, cancer. I saw him when I was 16 in London, Blondie, and on the Eat to the Beat tour. And he was incredible. I mean, he was the only person on that stage who pulled focus from Debbie Harry. And when you're a 16-year-old boy, pulling focus from Debbie Harry is quite hard work. So well done.
And the Debbie Harry, that music was not all rhythm. There was dynamics involved. You had to be on your game.
Yeah, you go back and play "Dreaming" by Blondie and listen to those roles he does in that. I mean, I'm exhausted listening to it. And incredible. So yes, but to answer your question, yeah, the Taylor thing was a shock. But actually, I'd only seen Clem a few years ago, and suddenly he's not there anymore. So,
but and the makeup, the character makeup of drummers is they're the crazy ones in the band. But your dialogue, your interviews, they're well thought out. They know what they're talking about. They're aware of the history of drummers. I mean, I would be shocked if people didn't know who Buddy Rich was, or of the guys that are, you know, like Art Blakey and the jazz. If you're going to play drums, you're going to spend all that time. You want to know where they came from. You want to, because everybody's influence, right?
Every drummer is a student of drumming. They love it. If you put a bunch of drummers together in a room, that's it. That's the conversation, and they're all fascinated by each other. You know, we have a scene at the end where we have four drummers playing together, and they do a relay, and then they play together, and every one of them wants to know, oh, what are you using there? How are you doing this? Did you see that? You know, they're away, and it's a world of their own. And
how personal are those kits that they assemble?
Oh yeah, well there was, I mean, those were put together. Well, Chad had his because he lives in LA, and we recorded that session in LA. So he had his beautiful acrylic kit. Stephen Perkins,
they don't just play anybody's drums. Those drums.
Oh yeah.
Are their personality.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had the drum doctor, we had Ross. So he put a couple of kits together for us.
Yeah.
So Cindy Blackman Santana, she plays Gretsch. So he put a very specific Gretsch kit together for her. And in the film, we follow Jess, who's the younger player, as he starts to assemble what turns out to be a gold sparkle kit in the end. And the snare that she had, oh God, everyone wanted that snare. Ross brought it along. Every other drummer played it and went, ooh. My snare's okay, but yeah, but it's great. But again, it's that camaraderie, you know, of everyone sharing, and that's drummers.
Who did you make it for, the film? Did you have someone in mind?
I think I made it for me, just so I could get to hang out with these incredible people. I just wanted to make something so people could see the joy of what it is. And we keep coming back to that word, don't I? Joy. But it's that appreciation. I can't do. I said to Cindy when we finished the session, I said, you make me want to go back and actually pick up the drums when I was 16 and learn it properly. But I know that I'll be here filming you all these years later. It would still be the same thing. I said, because I don't have that passion that you have. So if it's anything, it's about conveying their passion. That thing that you just can't not do that thing. You cannot not drum. You have to. And I said, it's an obsession with them, with getting a groove right. I mean, there are people we didn't get to interview for timing reasons, or a couple that got away. Would love to have sat down with Charlie Watts. I mean, that man. Oh, man's, yeah.
Was Neil Peart on that list?
No. Well, we did. We spoke to Neil, or rather, we spoke to his people. We didn't, of course, know he was so ill. It was, it was a very personal thing, and it wasn't talked about. So we wanted to interview him, but we didn't include him in the film because the players that were playing, they narrate the film. So in other words, they say, if they all talked about Neil Peart, we probably would have had more Neil Peart. But I think the only person who really brought him up was, again, Taylor. And even Taylor said, look, I love him. He's brilliant. He said, but honestly, my guys are Roger Taylor and Stuart Copeland. And as it was, both Roger and Stuart were able to do the film. So that's where it went. But I mean, he is extraordinary. Was extraordinary. Bless him.
I play music for a living. I've done it all my life, since '64. And I loved Ringo. And did you ask for some Ringo time?
We did.
Yeah.
We did ask for some Ringo time. And we didn't get it.
Okay.
Ringo hasn't. Well, I was told that Ringo has had and still has in the back of his mind that he wants to do his own drumming doc one day. Whether that will happen, I don't know. We chatted, we talked. I mean, you can't not ask for Ringo. We had to try.
Were he alive, would you have sought out Levon Helm?
Oh God, I love it. Well, as a couple, I would wanted Levon Helm, Mitch Mitchell was someone that we. But Hal Blaine. But Hal was very.
Hal Blaine.
Yeah, I mean, that's another level. That's a level. And we were chatting to Hal, Louise King, who kind of co-wrote with me and everything, and she's a journalist. She used to run Rhythm magazine, and she worked with me. She worked with me on the drum library thing because she knew the guys. She was the one who got Chad to sit down with me and have a chat about doing that. So I said, come on board. You know them. They're going to relax with you. I'll direct it. You do the interviews, and we'll work out what the interviews are. So we kind of got a level of connection with them already because they all knew and trusted and loved Louise. So she was very good friends with Hal, and yeah, he was not well. So we caught him just at the wrong time, and of course he passed not long.
Hal Blaine. I do Hal Blaine sets just to remind people, because most people don't know from drummers. They just don't, at least, especially a session drummer.
Mm.
But
yeah, that Wrecking Crew documentary is fantastic. If anyone gets a chance to see that.
But Levon not only was a great drummer, he was an incredible singer.
Yes,
both at the same time. And he laid down a groove that was unmistakable.
Emily Dolan Davis, one of our drummers in the film, she was lucky enough to go up. He used to do the shows in his barn. Up at his place, and she was a massive Levon Helm fan, and she said she learned so many grooves just by sitting and listening to him play, and she was able to go up to that barn. She said, in the atmosphere, and he wasn't particularly well at that point, because he got ill towards the end, but she said just sitting there soaking up the atmosphere, and he was so full of energy and smiles and. She said it was captivating and infectious to be around him. You just felt better about the world when you left the room. But you're right, that voice, it's extraordinary.
I had the pleasure of being at the. By the way, I'm talking to Mark Lowe, and the documentary is called "Count Me In" on Netflix. Um,
Oh no, it's not. It was on Netflix. It's actually going to be coming to Apple and somewhere. I'll tell you at the end. I've only just found out
oh,
myself where
excellent.
it's
Oh,
coming.
well,
It's coming to. It's actually available now on pre-order on Apple TV. I think it comes out on the 15th and Fandango. There you go.
thank you.
That's you. I didn't only found out this evening. So yeah.
Now, where was I? Damn.
Leave on,
Leave on.
boys.
I have had the pleasure of being at the Last Waltz in San Francisco. Robbie invited me down, and I said absolutely.
Wow.
And I couldn't take my eyes off Levon. I don't know. I mean, I knew Robbie. I knew all the other guys. It was Levon. I wanted to see what he did on that stage, because even if he was just a drummer, you would have watched him. But when he leaned into that microphone for Rag Mama Rag, all that stuff, he just loved it. And of course, the accent went with it, the way he leaned into his words. Oh yeah, he told a story. He was a storyteller.
And he's still drumming at the same time. I mean, that's. I mean, there's only a couple of drummers I think who can do it. Don Henley being another one who can, deliver a tune and play a kit at the same time. But it's a talent if you can do it.
Did you go looking for interviews with John Bonham?
Sorry, say again.
Did you go looking for interviews with John Bonham?
We did. I mean, the trouble is that it's the estate, and the estate's tangled up with Led Zeppelin, and it becomes. We had that. If you can find it on YouTube, there's a recording. What's the kind of Purdy Shuffle one he does on the Coda album? The Something in the Rain. Why has the title just gone out of my head? Yes, but there's an off-desk recording of him at the start, swears, and then you just hear him go 1, 2, and starts to get 1, 2, and he counts it in. That's how we wanted to start the film. Just in the blackness to have that. I mean, he does go bing hell, and then you hear Robert Plant say the same thing until the headphone bleed, and then you go, and we just wanted to have, ladies and gentlemen, as he's counting in, Mr. John Henry Bonham, and then it go boom boom, and it would just have been wonderful. But it's Led Zeppelin. It's tough enough using what we used in the film anyway. So, and now they've got their film out. So they can celebrate.
Mark, tell them about the ladies that are included in this, and rightly so.
Oh God, well yes. Let's see. We have Emily Dolan Davis, who used to play for other people, Roxy Music and The Darkness. We have Her Majesty herself, which is Cindy Blackman Santana. Obviously, some people will know her from back in the day with Lenny Kravitz, but obviously she plays with her husband Carlos, who's amazing. Jess Bowen plays with a band called the Somerset, but she also plays around with lots of different artists. And she's in the last few years since the film, she's really come into herself and been extraordinary. And then we have my wonderful mate, Sam Maloney, who played with Hole, ended up playing with Motley Crue, which is a lovely little story in the middle of that, because she grew up, she saw Tommy in that drum cage in Motley Crue and said, that's what I want to do with my life. And then years later, yeah, she didn't get the drum cage, but she ends up playing with them.
And best of all, they're still alive and breathing and playing.
Which is nothing short of a miracle.
And I'm surprised that Topper's still, I mean, I'm afraid to turn on the TV or to turn on my screen some days to see who's passed away. There's a lot of them gone, a lot of them. And I'm glad you've captured this the way you have.
Well, I've got to say, we looked at it. I said today, talking to Louise, because obviously I was rather shocked. We were doing a documentary about something completely different at the moment. But we were only on the phone this afternoon, and then I put the phone down, had lunch, and then I saw the headlines that Clem had gone.
Yep.
He introduced me to Clem. We met him in LA and filmed him. So you're going, God, that's that. And then, of course, you had Taylor a couple of years ago. And then, in fact, on the day we were released on Netflix, when the film first came out, Charlie passed away on that day. And I just went, and so we're seeing people vanish, people that we talk about in the film, we're losing, and it's, you want them to live forever.
Who's the most fascinating drummer you've seen on stage?
I've always been biased about Roger Taylor, because it's an incredibly musical kind of drumming. It's riffs. It's
orchestral.
I've always always rather endured. And of course, he hates drum solos. He hates drum solos. He thinks they should be.
So do I, buddy. So do I.
He said I'd never want to do it, but he used to do, because so Freddie could go off and change and put another wonderful costume on, and they could all just take a break. He used to do drum solos, sometimes kettle drum solos. I seem to, because I was lucky enough to see Queen a few times, and they were extraordinary. I mean, I think both Stephen Perkins and Taylor Hawkins' first gigs were Queen, and I had to wait till I was 16, I think.
So I asked a question so I could thank you for that. I could give you my answer. Because I saw him a couple of times live. Al Jackson, Booker T, and the MGs, the great Booker T and the MGs, and the house drummer at not only at Stax but at High Records. In the competition, he was so good he could play in other studios, and he was allowed to do that, play with other artists. And all the Otis songs, all the Sam and Dave songs, all that Stax Volt stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
nothing flashy, nothing big, nothing up here. No, none of the stuff. When he would get into a groove, he would play with his left hand and drop his right down just on the side. And I kept thinking, when is he going to use it? When is he going to bring it back up? Anyway, Al Jackson for me.
Yeah, the loudest I've ever encountered is Chad Smith. It's literally. Because we had the 2 days when we did Roger and Chad was the first day, and I've worked with quite a few drummers, but he started drumming, and I just, gee, Christ the Lord! And of course, the following day was Roger, and you're going, oh, that's so much nicer, that's so better. And I think I might have had a hangover on that Saturday as well, so it didn't. He really punished it. So he was the loudest. I've got to say, Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction is extraordinary, and he has some real sort of tribal kind of vibes in there as well. Like at the very end, when we do the 4 drummers in the circle, and he go from Jess to him, he's doing some beautiful work in there, and it's not overly flash, but it's got so much groove, so much pocket. It's unbelievable.
Was that always going to be the ending of the film?
We had several different endings, but no, there was always going to be that drum circle. Sure. It kind of had to be, and it was, and then we have obviously the drums slow down, and we just happened to get a couple of quotes from Amazing Player where Taylor says, do it because you love it, and go out there and do your best. Never happens. King A man, which is great. And then we get Sam, who just by chance, we were just saying anything you want to say to anyone who's trying and going out and wants to try that. And she just looked down the barrel of the lens without asking and just went, dreams do come true. And it just so happens when we matched that with the slowing down of the drums, it just worked. And we said, that's the end of the film. Let's get out. Originally, there was a camera going across the ocean, the sound of drums, cut to black, all kinds of fancy stuff. And we went, no, let's just do that.
You're saying editing could be like a drum solo.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love editing. I love editing. I very rarely do I mess with the rhythm. I try to stay with it because I've got my music training. I know where it is. I know where the keys are. And
no, we had for anyone who does see the film, we had a really elaborate animated start, which was moving around a drum kit that was computer generated, and you move through the different parts of the drums, and you have the credits coming up, all of that. And in the end, we'd spent some money on it as well, but we threw it out because all we did was we said, well, let's just have the walk up to the drum circle, and then we found this incredible footage of this cymbal being filmed in hyper fast, so it was slowed right down. You can see it bending and the light moving, and then we just put the sound of a cymbal behind it. And the great thing was we just cut to black and leave silence, and it's black, and then we hear one voice just say, well, I started to, and then you're in, and you just, well, that's it. So we made this expensive, flashy start. We threw it out because we went, no, that's not right for this at all.
I'll tell you a couple of things. Remind me to come full circle. We have an incredible indigenous movement, music movement, film movement, actually, indigenous arts movement in Canada. It's their turn. They have the spotlight shining on them, and all of those young artists are ready to go, and it's fantastic. And they've been including tribal drumming in their music, and taking the song to the drums, and then the next track bringing the drums to the song. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but it's an amazing time to be playing music in Canada.
Wow. No, it's great. I think, and I think the other thing we like with drummers is that when you get a drummer involved, it involves everyone because everyone feels, because there's something, they're moving air. They're literally moving the molecules around you, and people feel drawn to it. So it's very inclusive. I mean, we did that drum circle up on Mount Wilson above. It's about 6,500 feet up over LA in that observatory. And we went in there, and they were lovely. The people that organised it were great, and they let us open up the canopy and turn it and everything. And the great thing was when we finished the whole session, we had 20 people up there all drumming, with it being led by Stephen Perkins. And we went out to do some photos at the end because we had a drone. And all the people that worked for the observatory were out in the car park, sitting in vans and what have you, and just listening to this. They said, we've never heard anything like this. It was wonderful. And they got caught up in it. They said, we love this. We stopped work.
I couldn't imagine what the room tone was like.
It was, I mean, the echo was, the reverb was, but we put some ceramics in there and got it. But,
I'll come full circle. I asked you earlier a question about who did you make the film for? Count me in. I know you had drummers in mind and musicians in mind and music fans in mind. How do you expand that audience? How do you get people to go, the drummer? You mean not the singer or the guitarist or the piano, the drummer? How do you? Because if you can turn them, they'll come. They'll follow your lead.
OS contains a built-in screen.
Oh, sorry, my computer's just decided to have a conversation with me. Go away. Hold on.
You might now to turn it on and set up your match. If you would like to learn how to use voice,
Sorry.
set up your match.
Take your time.
Oh wait, stop. There we go. Sorry, I've just reinstalled something on this machine, and it's decided to come to life. Sorry, what was the question? Oh yes, why? I think because they're an unsung hero. So it's I mean, everyone knows the lead singer, everyone knows the mysterious guitarist. No one, of course, cares about the bass player. That should be the next one, I think, that someone's going to do. Someone asked me, they said, "You're going to do bass players next?" I said, No, I don't really want to do. I never grew up wanting to play bass. I did grow up wanting to play drums. I think, actually, by the way, when you asked me who did I make it for, I made it for me because I needed to get it out of my system.
Sure.
I spent most of my life envious of drummers, and now I feel like I've spent enough time with them. I mean, one day, who knows, I'll live somewhere, I might get myself a kit finally, and I'll drum badly, but I'll enjoy it. But I think, again, the thing about the film is it's about, you don't have to be brilliant, you just have to love it. You just have to, whatever it is, even if it's not drumming, whatever you pick, whatever you choose, just do it with all your passion. But yeah.
And just an aside to that, you also showed us the community of drumming.
Oh yes, yeah.
They all have the same tales in common, whether they told them or not. They're all in that seat. They're all driving the band. Everybody else, all the show, all the flashes out in front. You're going to watch Lenny Kravitz and all what's going on. But that community, every time they would sit down together, they would tell those same stories to each other.
Yeah, and it's funny. And the moment you get onto, I remember when I met Topper Hedden from the Clash. We hadn't met before. Louise introduced us. We went and had some Italian food in a little restaurant near his home. And it's Topper Hedden from the Clash, for God's sake, But he's quite shy, quite retiring. He's not a very loud guy. And so for a while, it was very, it was just polite chit chat and what have you. And then I said, "So how did you end up with that snare routine on Tommy Gun?" And suddenly we're away, and he's showing me on the table, and we were off. And after that, we were done. We had the best time talking about Phil Downey from Thin Lizzy, who we both loved. Brian Downey, sorry, from Thin Lizzy. And and we just got into it. So the moment you get into those conversations with these guys, they're just away. And they're encyclopedic as well.
Do we know who's got Bonham's drums? Anybody playing them?
No, someone told me that Dave Grohl's got one of his snares.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, his kits are. I bumped into one of Mitch Mitchell's stainless steel kit, which is at DW Drums. It was a sight to behold. They're all out there somewhere.
Thank you, Mark. Mark Lowe, by the way, the director, writer, producer of Count Me In. Yes, he touched all those bases. Once again, Mark, tell them where they can see this documentary.
Count Me In it's available to pre-order now from both Apple US and Apple Canada, and Fandango at home as well. And you can pre-order it now, and I think it comes out on the 15th, which is next Tuesday, I think.
Do you know your next project?
I'm doing a weird and wonderful documentary about an insane, wonderful actor who also happens to be a mountaineer, a trained astronaut, both in Russia and in America, and an adventurer. His name's Brian Blessed. You'd know him there if you watch Flash Gordon, because he's Voltan, the King of the Horsemen. But he's a wonderful character. And then
do you have a working title?
Called Gordon's Alive.
Okay, I say that because I'm on the screening committee for the Critics' Choice Association, the documentary. We see maybe 300 or 400 films in the course of the summer.
Oh, wow.
I'll watch for that one.
Okay, that'd be brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mark Lowe. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I hope you get to do that drumming that you talked about. And
so do I. I've got a beautiful snare sitting up here that one day I'm going to be playing that thing properly. Anyway, it's been lovely to see you.
Congratulations.
Take care.
Thanks, buddy.